Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our today's coffee and conversation with Dr. Vaughn Calhoun, our Assistant Vice President and Dean of the Center for Academic Success. Dr. Calhoun will be sharing his vision in creating an equitable experience across all his assigned units, the Academic Resource Center, the Academic Support for Student Athletes, the Career Services Center for Academic Success, and ROTC that provide all your students with the critical knowledge they need to navigate Seton Hall and well into their careers. And I'm so grateful that he's here with us this morning. Uh, Dr. Calhoun just joined us about, what, 3 months ago, Dr. Calhoun?
Almost five.
Almost five.
Almost.
I'm sorry.
Almost
Yeah.
five. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we're so lucky to have him as part of our Division of Student Services. And I'll stop talking and let Dr. Calhoun introduce himself and share his vision with all of you. And we'll also have a Q&A. So at any point, if you have any questions, please use the raise your hand icon, or you can share it in the chat. So this is an opportunity for us to have an interactive conversation with Dr. Calhoun. So feel free to ask any questions. Dr. Calhoun, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sandro. I appreciate you, brother. And thank you for giving me just an opportunity just to chat just a little bit. And good morning, parents. Thank you for choosing to spend your morning with me. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I really appreciate you. Um, and even more, really thank you for entrusting us with your kids. I'm a parent too, albeit of a 7-year-old, but I know the feeling of handing your child off to other people, hoping and praying that they will do right by your child. But as Sandro said, I'm fairly new. I've been here now almost 5 months. And just a quick funny story about my first day on the job. So I was literally on campus no more than 20 minutes. And a colleague of mine is giving me a tour on campus and, showing me this building, that building, looking at our quads, our greens, giving me some history. And, I'm walking with this bright red tie on. And I hear someone shout out, Vaughn. I'm like, hey, I've only been on campus now for, 20 minutes. I don't know anybody who's yelling my name. Then a few moments later, I hear the same voice yell out to me, this ain't Rutgers. I'm like, who is yelling at me at 8:30 in the morning, right? So my colleague who's walking me through campus says, that's the president and the president's chief of staff. I'm like, oh, okay. So, as they're walking towards us, we're walking towards them. The president's chief of staff is the gentleman who was yelling at me at 8:30 in the morning. And he says, this ain't Rutgers, but in a very playful way. He says, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a blue tie tomorrow. And, sometimes people talk, they give out pleasantries, some platitudes. But funny thing is that very next morning, I had a blue tie sitting on my desk. In fact, this is the blue tie right here. A Seton Hall branded tie, Vineyard Vines. I mean, it was, totally classy, right? And to me, this is a great example of who Seton Hall is, of who we are, right? We are big enough to matter, yet small enough to care, right? We're big enough to matter, yet we're small enough to care. In other words, right, our graduates, as most of you all know here, they go on to work for the top employers in this nation, right? We have championship level D1 teams, cutting edge research, very, state of the art facilities, right? But at the same time, we pride ourselves on that personal touch. I think what average class size, correct me, Sandra, if I'm wrong, is that it was about 20. We have like a 13-to-1 student faculty ratio, right? So we get to know your students and your students get to know us. So, just real quick again, I oversee 5 units and about 80 people. That includes, full-time staff, part-time staff, and student workers. That's the Center for Academic Success, which is first-year advising, our Student Athlete Academic Services, our Career Center, our Academic Resource Center, which is Tutoring, and ROTC. And I know ROTC, that's kind of the odd one in this group. kind of the curveball, but I find it fascinating just because I grew up a military kid. My dad served in the Army 25 years, retired, first sergeant, and I literally grew up right next door to an Army base. So with ROTC, it's just kind of cool trying to hearing this perspective now as an adult, right? So as a kid, I always saw my dad and with his Army buddies, but now to be in this arena, it's pretty cool. I digress. But during my first few months here, what I try to do is just really listen, ask questions, and listen some more. All right, like my dad always told me, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Sometimes I forget that, and in particular, my wife tells me that all the time. I talk too much, so I'm trying to, I promise you, I won't talk your ear off, because who wants to listen to anyone talk, on and on and on. But I've had several meetings thus far with folks across campus. In offices, in hallways, on our campus greens, even in our campus Dunkin' Donuts. That's where Sandro and I first met back in September. We literally had coffee and conversation for a good hour, just talking about what I do, what he does, and how we can help each other out. And the cool thing about it is, with all these conversations, I've heard some really fantastic stories about just the culture of Seton Hall. The supportive culture, and not only the impact on Seton Hall's campus, but outside of South Orange, and how we are able to connect and really impact. So my intent is to continue meeting with folks, to hear their perspectives. What makes this community great? How can we maintain this established trajectory of improvement? To really sustain a culture of innovation, creativity, and close any gaps that we probably do have, right? Just a real quick background. I'm the first in my family to go to college, right? And I'm acutely attuned to the incredible responsibility that student services has in helping your kids succeed. And I think we can all think back to a moment in time in our lives where there have been those handful of people who were pivotal in making our experience better because we knew them. And for me, that was, Dr. Robin Lee, Bill Bailey, Dr. Ed Martin, and Dean Sean Johnson, people who were, they were my people, right? And for me, this is the vision that I want to not only continue, but to raise that level at Seton Hall, really having that village culture. So all students, all your kids feel welcome, they feel safe, they feel supported, that there's enrichment opportunities to really broaden their minds or curiosity, and just promoting a seamless transition from student to a principal leader in their field. But it's interesting, this year has really been like no other years that I've experienced, that none of us have experienced, right? There's no playbook for how a college emerges out of a pandemic. If we really think about it, these incoming freshmen, those who are freshmen right now, they haven't been in normal class since probably, I think, their fall semester junior year. And not only that, they missed out on proms, on plays, on sporting events, on class trips, on senior trips. Essentially, they missed out on many of the hallmark moments in your teenage life. And interestingly, they're bringing all of that here, right? To whatever institution that they're going to at Seton Hall, they're bringing all of that here. So what I've asked my staff to do, just to be super cognizant of that, and to really continue to lead with even more empathy, right? Because our students have been impacted in more ways than we could not even imagine 2 years ago, right? And some were probably impacted more than others, but nonetheless, we were all impacted. So being kind, right? Providing an extra word of encouragement, spending an extra minute just listening or talking to somebody is more important now than it has ever been before. I'm counting on my team to be that person in the village for your child, because it is so important, right? And, when I think about, this pandemic, it's really forced higher education to restructure, rethink, and retool how we operate seemingly overnight. And for me, it's just being very clear that we're only limited by our imaginations. I think too often we hear, I can't wait to go back to normal, right? But the truth is, we can't go back. We can only go forward. And I believe the opportunities we have in front of us are really endless. The pandemic was and is tragic, right? I take nothing away from that. But there are still things that we can learn, things that we can use and lessons to make this world a better place. And the way I see it is, your kids, they're going to be the ones who are going to help us lead the way. With the world of over, I think, 7 billion people living on this earth, college students really represent, I think, the greatest hope that we have to take on the challenges of this world, right? From like poverty to access to clean water, to medicine, education, violence, racism, oppression, all those, bad things. And for me, I don't think that I will change the world, but my hope is that I will spark the brains of the students who do, or my team will spark the brains of the students, right? So I know I'm limited on my time to talk, and I know you probably have a ton of questions. So I'm going to just leave it at that. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I take questions, comments, concerns.
Well, Vaughn, I know I have questions that I've received from some parents. And it's mostly about tutoring, right? In regards
Sure.
to, especially, I think most of the parents that are on today are parents of freshmen. What do you recommend talking to a parent how to, I think some of the students feel like they can do it all on themselves, and
Sure.
looking out and looking for help, helping them with tutoring services, which you provide with your wonderful team. How do you get them to come to the Academic Resource Center
Yeah.
to get that type of tutoring to help them be successful in the classroom?
That's a great question. And, I think generally speaking, there's this stigma around if I need tutoring, it means there's something wrong with me, right? And I think we have to break that stigma to say, everybody needs somebody, right? And everyone needs a little bit of help, even though you might have been the the smartest, and I like to stay away from that. But if things just come easy to you, and high school is easy to you, college is a little bit different, right? You're not under the same parameters. So just adjusting to being in a new town or a new state, being around a new friend group. There's so many things that are happening at one time that students have to be cognizant of that tutor and tutoring is here to help you bridge those gaps. And one thing is the thing that I encourage students is don't wait to go to tutoring when something's wrong, right? Even if you feel pretty good about it, feel good about your particular subject or class, it's still okay to check in, because everyone has their blind spots. So what we try to do, we have a course called University Life. And University Life is our version of first year seminar or freshman studies. And all freshmen take this course. And within that course, we introduce students to all the different services on campus. And our Academic Resource Center, also known as the ARC, is part of that curriculum, where students get to hear that, it's just not about, if you're not smart enough or, if you're failing the class, but be proactive. Come reach out, talk to us. We're here to help. And the cool thing about it is, the tutors are all peer tutors. So they are there, maybe a year or two in front of your students, perhaps, if your students are freshmen or sophomores. So one, just constantly just reiterating the message to them that don't wait till something goes wrong. Don't wait till you get a bad grade. And even if you feel confident, it's good just to check in. And I think the more we say that and we're building this culture, I think, students will feel more comfortable with putting themselves in our tutoring center.
Thank you, Vaughn.
What else we got here? I
Any
know there's a
questions?
question somewhere. There's something burning out there.
So, Juan, I know the other component that you oversee is the Career Center, which is always top of mind for parents, right? I
Oh, of
think
course.
they want to get their return on their investment, and usually that means job placements for their students once they graduate from Seton Hall. Can you share a little bit
Correct.
about how what you see with the Career Center in regards to the future, especially with internships, what a lot of the students experienced during COVID, like a lot of the
Yeah.
internships were virtual or some of them shriveled, and there was limited. But what are you seeing in regards to students participating in internships and career fairs that you provide, um,
Sure.
part of the Career Center?
Yeah, the Career Center is something that I share with my students. I said, don't be like me and wait till spring semester senior year to visit, right? You want to visit the Career Center on day one. And in fact, we started a new advising model. And in this advising model is based on four individuals. It's based on your first year advisor in CAS, the Center for Academic Success, your faculty advisor, and your career advisor. And the person in the middle is the student. So the student is surrounded by these three individuals. And the intent is so your students become very familiar with the people who are going to help you be the most successful as they go through their journey. And we were intentional in putting career services, having a specific career advisor for your student. So it's not like they don't know who they are or who my advisor is or where are they. It is encouraged for them to reach out in their freshman year, even though they might not even have, the jobs on their radar or still trying to figure out what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to impact? So this is a resource we were intentional with giving each of our students. Now, in terms of, how they go about finding internships, we actually just adopted a new platform called Handshake. Handshake, think of it like Indeed.com on steroids for college students. So like Indeed.com is a job platform to where people can go find jobs, internships. But this one, Handshake, is particularly made just for college students. And within that, there are if I remember correctly, 17,000 unique jobs available. And the more the student uses the platform, the more the jobs that are presented to the students are more streamlined. In other words, it's kind of like Netflix, right? You watch this show and this show, then it kind of says, okay, you like these action comedy rom-coms, and they're presented to you, right? Same thing with this platform. They say, you like these jobs in criminal justice law, so now these courses are presented to you as potential interest. So, and just recently we held 2 career fairs. One was in person and one was virtual. And this was our first career fair since pre-pandemic. And, the thought was, how, what is that going to look like and feel like? So I just pulled up the numbers real quick, just to throw some numbers out here to you. So we had, in our in-person career fair, we had 358 students participate. 63 organizations, they came to our campus, and 11 of those were self-identified. They were self-identified alumni. So that's pretty good to have 63 employers visit our campus face to face. And then for the virtual fair, which was held the following week, and again this was mid-September, we had 400 and almost 50 students participate. We have 450 students participate and 68 employers registered. And again, this was in a virtual setting. So, we're trying to hit it from all angles because we know some people aren't as comfortable meeting face to face. So we said, okay, we have a virtual platform for you as well. But I say all this to say, we try to do a pretty good job from day one to make sure that there are opportunities for your students to interact with employers. And I got to tell you this real quick story too. So I'm there in the in-person fair, and one of the career advisors comes up to me and shares with me that there was a freshman who was turned away. And I said, I said, for what? Why was a freshman turned away? And someone said, well, the freshman had sweatpants on and a hoodie, and that wasn't professional. And then this career advisor stepped in and said, no, time out. Yes, still come in, still listen, still come here and engage. So so we brought that student back in and just literally went around and introducing this student to different employees. Now, imagine this. Imagine if this person didn't step in and say, this isn't your time, and you don't look the part for whatever reason, right? That student could have been turned off and might not have come back. But when she heard that, she said, no, that's not right. And then now we're able to bring that student back and now work with that student one-on-one since that time. So that's when I say, we are big enough to matter, yet small enough to care, right? You're not going to get that everywhere. For someone to inject themselves and say, no, that's not the right thing, come on back. So, just again, we're here to make sure that your students have a not only a great experience here, but prepared to when they go off into the real world. I hate that term, but post-college.
Thank you, Dr. Calhoun. We have a couple of questions in the chat. One from Priscilla. Where is the Academic Resource Center, and does a student have to make an appointment? Very good question.
Awesome. So it's located in Schwartz Hall, and they do need to make an appointment to meet with a tutor, but they don't need an appointment just to stop by and say hello, because they do take walk-ins. However, it's better to get an appointment to make sure you have somebody there. And the cool thing about this too is, right, so we have our standard courses that, typically need tutoring or tutoring help. And then we have those one-off courses. So what our director of the Academic Resource Center does is work with faculty to identify those courses that aren't as, used for tutoring services. So no matter what class it is, we can find your student a tutor.
Thank you. There's another question from Eleanor Hurst. How are students notified to these resources? She has a sophomore, but with the pandemic of last year, it's really more like his first year. He's finding that there are a lot of things he's not aware of.
Yeah, great question. So one of the places that that your student can turn to is going to their CAS advisor, their Center for Academic Resource Advisor. And these are the advisors that help connect the students to the entire campus. So whatever your student is lacking or just wants to check in to be made aware, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know until someone tells you. So I'd recommend that they go to their CAS advisor just for a check-in and see, what is it that he or she could be doing some more of, organizations, things that he or she might be missing out on. And those are walk-ins, and anyone can actually help you. So it doesn't have to be your specific advisor. They can come talk to me, right? So, I might not know the answers, but I'll find out someone who does.
Any other questions from our wonderful audience? Well, I know my time being here at Seton Hall, I think one of the things that I'm very proud of seeing is, or meeting, are these wonderful peer advisors, the wonderful students that are leaders, that are here to really support freshmen as a mentor, as a peer that they can go to. I've talked to parents, and some of them have no clue of what a peer advisor is, or even the student. How are you connecting peer advisors to the students? Especially, I know before there was the opportunity to meet their peer advisor during Pirate Adventure, which was the orientation for a lot of students where it was a lot of, when we were in person. But how are you connecting peer advisors to their students?
Sure. So peer advisors are those who are between sophomores and seniors, and they are it's called your student's first best friend on campus. And typically in a pre-COVID year, and now emerging from COVID, they are first introduced in the summer. So during summer orientation, where they get to meet their peer advisor, we call them PAs for short. But as we move from orientation into the academic year, peer advisors are essentially TAs to faculty members in the first year experience course. So they not only are in the class helping facilitate, but they're actually also leading some conversations. And the peer advisors really are integral in helping the freshmen get acclimated to college, right? And they stick with that group for that entire year. It's really a cool model to, sometimes, if you think back to, if you went to college and sometimes you're like, I don't know where to go, who to talk to, this is your person. And the peer advisors typically, they work either in a singular course or maybe two classes sometimes. So they can have upwards of 30 to 60 individuals, give or take. That is their cohort of people, and that's really a model that a model that I really believe is pretty awesome, because it's that one designated person that they can, if they can't talk to a faculty member, they can't talk to a staff member. And sometimes they don't want to talk to us. They want to talk to someone within their age group and share some things that they might not feel comfortable for whatever reason, and that's totally cool. So that is their PA, and that's how it typically works.
There's hi Denise, I know you have your raised hand, so if you want to unmute yourself and ask Dr. Calhoun your question.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm calling from Portland, Oregon. My son's all the way over there in New Jersey. He's a freshman, and I got to tell you, he's struggling there. He's very, very happy to be at Seton Hall. And I've been definitely his kind of coach over here on the West Coast, trying to get him through this fall semester. He did the Jumpstart program, which was really, really awesome, the 2.5 week program before. And we've met with ARC and the disability. He has he has ADHD and some social, pragmatic learning issues. So advocacy is really hard for him. And so I've been pushing him to do the tutoring, get that scheduled. And it's still, what he's missing is still this one person. And I'm just looking for feedback on if I've not heard of this CAS advisor. There's what I told him yesterday on the phone. I said, Seton Hall has so many support services, but I feel they're decentralized. There's so many where they could go. And for a student like mine, that it's hard for them to be their own advocate. When he was in high school, he had one learning services person that he could go to weekly and check in and those types of things. So I guess my question is, I know ARC, they don't, Evan's team does not have enough team members to meet with staff, meet with students weekly and kind of give them that one-on-one. And then your RISE program, which is incredibly amazing, Luke does not fit into that because we have financial issue. We have our financial income is too high to be part of that very one-on-one structured program. So he's kind of caught in the middle. And so I just am trying to help figure out where to direct him, that he can find someone weekly. Or do I just need to hire an outside coach to support him? So, struggling a little.
Sure. Well, thank you for that question and really explaining, your you and Luke's concerns. one thing we don't want is the student to feel as if they are lost and that they don't have anybody. And sometimes it might feel a little bit overwhelming. You have so many different resources. Which one do I go to? Which one fits for me? Now, without knowing the particulars, I would say the best place to start is with your CAS advisor, also known as your student success advisor. They are the central hub of the institution of where to connect people to. Now, those individuals within CAS, Center for Academic Success, falls under me. And what I could do is I can find out who Luke's his student success advisor is, and perhaps even ask them to reach out to Luke. So maybe we can email back and forth. So, it can be a little bit more, this is the person, this is who you go to, versus trying to figure that out. Because I know as a freshman, everything is brand new to you. So, if we can talk offline, I think that might be a little bit more helpful.
Thank you. That's great.
Sure.
Yeah, I've not heard of this CAS advisor. There's again, Seton Hall's all these amazing support services. It's
Sure.
I'm just super happy with him there, but I just need to get that scaffolding to that one person that will are you getting the club? So he went to the club fair, but didn't hear from the club. So he's not involved in any clubs right now. So it's just the start stop. So, then is that under ARC, or that's a whole different department that's
that is under the Division of Student Services.
Okay.
So the ARC works in conjunction with the Center for Academic Success. So we work in tandem with each other.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
And Denise, I can share Colleen Deval, who's our director of our student engagement, oversees organizations and clubs, in the chat. She's a great person to speak with in regards to just everything, all the clubs and organizations that are available to your son that he can be engaged. Also, we have a new platform, as Dr. Calhoun mentioned, Handshake, but it's called Engage. It's a wonderful platform which has all the student organizations and clubs on a actual format that they could get access to. They'll have the listing of the members of these organizations and clubs, who to contact. And so it's pretty straightforward, but it's something that's user-friendly for our students just to get access to an organization or a club that they might be of interest and contact their members, the president, and there's contact information in there as well. And I'll include the link in there as well. But it's a great platform that they just started this semester, just to have more access to these organizations and clubs.
Sandro, this is Ghana. I dropped the Engage link for you, and Vaughn, I dropped the advising link in there for you.
Oh,
you're the best.
Awesome. Thank you, Ghana.
Thank you, Ghana. There was another question in the chat. Thank you, Denise. Just bear with me for a second here. There was another question from Priscilla, and I'm just gonna. The question from Priscilla is it realistic and or expected that a freshman start applying for an internship? It's a great question.
It is not expected, but it is realistic. I know there are some freshmen who just want to get at it. And there's no restrictions on them not doing it. But also be cognizant of, as a freshman, you were getting adjusted to everything. So it's not necessary, but just even having conversations with your career advisor on just mapping out, well, what could be and how could I do it? And also too, depending upon your major, there's certain cycles of when, internships happen. So I know for business accounting, there's a cycle, I believe, from sophomore year to junior year, then junior year to senior year, in which I think they call them the big three accounting firms are looking to actually recruit. So that's why it's good to talk with your career advisor to know when the cycles are and when they should start thinking about it and start looking for them.
Thank you, Priscilla, for the question. Thank you, Vaughn. There's another question in the chat. Sorry, just bring that up here. And I just also want to just note that Ghana also shared in the chat that students also receive a weekly and monthly correspondence from student services. I think it's usually every Friday. Today, they should be receiving that email, and it lets them know what is available and upcoming. And she actually placed a sample in the chat. It's chock full of information. So if your student tells you, I don't know what's going on, you should probably ask them, did you read the email that was sent from student services that sent out every Friday? And Ghana has a lot to do with that. And Ghana, thank you for sharing that. One question here. Oh, this is a great question from Andrea. Do you have any specific advice for transfer students?
So we have within the Center of Academic Success, we have the director of transfer students. And this is the point person for all those who are transferring into Seton Hall to connect them to, Seton Hall, right? So that person is Brittany White. She does all things transfer. And there's even transfer orientations at our fall spring open house as well. And it's just a way to make sure that when transfers get here, because sometimes transfers, generally speaking, get overlooked because they're not the brand new freshmen, they're the transfer students, but they're still valuable members of our community. So that's why we dedicated someone to be that point person to help with any questions in terms of course registration, in terms of connecting with faculty, in terms of even, how to go about, connecting with career services. Like, this is that person.
Thank you, Vaughn. And there's a comment from Chantal. As a freshman, actually a question. What to do when tutoring is not helpful? Good question.
Yeah, I guess when tutoring is not helpful, I think my first question is to ask, well, why isn't it helpful? How long has the student been going to tutoring? Has there been a plan made to figure out a little bit more? And sometimes it could be a matter of, maybe the particular tutor that your son or daughter is going to might not be the right tutor, right? So let's start having these conversations, being a little bit more exploratory in the why it's not working. So it's really hard for me to give a specific answer, and sometimes too, outside of just tutoring, I always, I recommend also talking to the faculty member, right? Because they're also a outstanding resource. So it's more, I don't think there's a singular answer. It's just trying to figure out, okay, what is not working, and then trying to then pinpoint and break down that particular.
I don't know if you raised your hand again, maybe, did you have another question, or was that from your prior question? No, I think, okay. Any other questions from our parents? So Vaughn, being here for 5 months, what have you seen that kind of just kind of surprised you in the sense of being at Seton Hall that you didn't expect coming in? I know you mentioned, the welcome, people, everyone being very welcoming, but anything else that you could add that surprised you, but also made you excited about taking this wonderful position at Seton Hall?
Yeah, it's being, so in my unit, the Center of Academic Success, it's the real authentic collaboration, right? So we have our internal chat, and so it's like real-time text messages. And when I first got here, that chat was just blowing up all the time. But it's literally people saying, hey, I have this student, I'm not really sure about this. What do we do? And then three people answer. And then it's constantly going. So just seeing how well my team works with each other, and it's not siloed, and it's so collaborative. It's just wonderful to see that they care so much. So I think that was one of the big things. And then, I think just it sounds cliche, but just that general warmth, right? I came from an institution that was, a large state university, and sometimes you feel like you can get lost, right? As a faculty, as a staff, even as students. Here, there's a general warmth where, people know my name. Like, I don't even know who you are. It's like, hey, Vaughn. I'm like, should I know you? Have we met? So, when I think the saying is, like, your name is the best name to hear, right? So when people says, hey, Vaughn, I'm like, hey, I feel bad I don't know your name, but, what's that? Like, oh, okay, I'll try to remember that. So, like to me, those are the small things, the intangibles, that goes back to where we're big enough to matter, yet small enough to care.
Well, just any other questions before we wrap up, please, this is the time to ask Dr. Calhoun any questions that you might have before we start our wonderful weekend and start trick-or-treating and wearing our awesome costumes. But I could tell you, I've been at Seton Hall for 9 years, and I'm excited that Dr. Calhoun is part of the team at Student Services. I could feel his energy when we met at Dunkin' Donuts, and I can tell you, your students are in great hands based off the team that he has and his leadership. But we also, as I always tell parents, we're in it together, and we really want parents to be involved as much as possible. So having this type of discussion and questions and feedback is helpful for us as staff at the university, because we never think that we know everything. And but we all are, my job is to get you involved. And I think one of the opportunities to work with Dr. Calhoun and his team is providing internship opportunities for our students. And we know that parents are in different sectors, and we have parents that are teachers, doctors, lawyers. We had a wonderful doctor, her name is Dr. Savaramutu, who had 3 daughters here at Seton Hall, who presented yesterday at the InterHealth campus in Nutley and sharing her journey as a doctor. So just things of that nature, that's simple, just providing career advice to our students is what we would love for our parents to be more engaged. So if you're interested, please let us know, and especially internships as well. If you have internships opportunities at your workplace, please share them with us as well. But again, feedback is always important for us, and it's something I'll share with Dr. Calhoun and his team in regards to what's concerning you and what you think we can do better. And so, as we say, we want to collaborate with you during this time, this journey that you're taking with your students. And our goal is to make them very successful. And we hope we can work together. And again, I want to thank Dr. Calhoun for his time, his talent, and his expertise in making sure our students are successful academically. Dr. Calhoun, I don't know if you have some final words before we wrap up.
No, I think you said it just right. We're in this as a shared journey. We are in it together. And the more that we can help each other out, I think at the end of the day, that will put your children, our students, in a better position so that they can take on the world.
Well, thank you everyone for joining our Coffee and Conversation. We have another edition of this Coffee and Conversation next week with Dean Van Norman, who oversees housing and also a lot of other departments within student services. So please join that conversation with Dean Van Norman as well if you're available. Well, everyone have a great weekend. Happy Halloween. Be safe and go Pirates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.